morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know whether many of you have had the chance to see this video that has been circulating on social media. I'll just play it if you haven't seen it.
Sorry, there's a chair.
Correct. Nandasikia about it. Then the police, it was there for most of the time. But then just about 5 or so guys just came in with the balaclavas and so on, and then ordered everyone to leave. And then they came straight for me and started beating me up, shouting, "You want to create problems for us," and so forth. And then that's what they did. They were beating me all over. We don't know them.
Who came with these people?
The police were with them.
Are you very certain that this is the police?
They were. I mean, there were 2 police vehicles there, but the police said nothing. They just seated there.
How are you feeling now?
I just have pain all over, but I'm okay.
What was used to assault you?
It was pattern sticks.
Guns.
And then that's right.
What were they saying?
They were saying, "Rudolph Netza." That's what they kept coming.
They couldn't identify themselves.
No, they were not going to do that.
And what happened to that person?
What? Oh, they were thoroughly beaten. They took my phone, they destroyed my glasses, as you can see, and everything. Yeah.
Anyone else who saw what happened?
They were actually instructed we had called a consultative meeting of the NCA leadership from across the country, and we were at our head office. We wanted them to start our meeting to look at the Constitutional Amendment number 3 and to confirm our stance that we are opposed to it, that we will do everything to stop it. So when we were waiting for most of our people to come, and then that's why some people come in.
This is simply unbelievable. One has got to hang their head in shame that we still continue to treat our fellow Zimbabweans as if they are nothing. This has been happening ever since our independence. Zanu Pf, whenever they felt their hold on power is threatened, they've resorted to violence, wanton violence. This is totally unacceptable, and this must be condemned in no uncertain terms. This is barbarism at its worst. Ben, welcome to the program.
I was going to say good day to everybody, but due to the circumstances and what we have just seen, I don't think it's a very good day. People that are supposed to be free 45 years and 46 now in counting, we are still seeing, our brothers and sisters beating each other, almost killing each other just to have their own way. I mean, look, this has to be stopped. I think, there comes a time where we must draw a visible line and say this is a point where we cannot let this continue the way it is. Zimbabwe is not only a failed state, but has crossed the line where it is now infringing the rights of many, not a few, but many people out there. It's somebody who is prominent that has been, shown to the world that this is what is happening. But I will bet you there are tens and thousands of people out there that have been victimized, that have been beaten, that have been killed, who we cannot name because they are not that popular. This really has to be stopped. And I urge, those in positions of influence, those who have authority, to step in. This is the time to step in. We don't have to wait until it's a full-fledged war to then say, no, this is not all right. This has to be stopped. Zanu Pf must be told this is not acceptable.
Well, here is a video clip of one of the real acts of barbarism in Zimbabwe. The most notable one is, of course, Kukura, when over 20,000 innocent civilians were murdered by the regime in pursuit of the de facto one-party state. After acts of violence, the beating of Tsvangirai, Nelson Chamisa, and others, SADC forced Zanu Pf to accept democratic reforms to ensure the 2008 elections were the nearest the country has ever got to free, fair, and credible elections. But when Zanu Pf realized they were losing that election, they once again resorted to violence. Here is a video clip of what happened in 2008.
2008 patakaita ma-elections pakaposa papinda Tsvangirai ndandiri election agent ya president. Ma-results abuda tiri party headquarters vamutasa vanga vari secretary vedu ve-administration vamutasa muripi yafona ndiri kwarusapi komogwenda kwarusapi seka ma-results achibuda kudai vanga aiwa zvako izvo Mnangagwa ndezvako endaenda kumusha ofisi vanga vabisa zvinhu zvavo zvose watofunga kuti zani yadini yaparara. President ofona zvakamira sei kati ndomamira zvakaita takatodini kateda sei manje mama ndikati abvudzai baba nditaurira baba gadzirai politburo cabinet musarangarira zvimwe zvinhu gadzirai chi cabinet asi nangoda kuti muzive kuti 2008 ma-results abuda vamutasa vakatiza.
As a country we face a generational transition. Vana vesa vari kuma below 35 they are crying out for help. The country is in a mess. Arusurufaro. We know we are inheriting a mess. We know this country has been left with nothing.
I'm assuring you that starting from tomorrow, you'll see a different nation from what you have seen or read on the news about these results and everything. Where we are going ahead there, the situation will be very different. What we said to our people, they could not see with their own eyes. We are going to act as we see it fit. We are prepared to go the whole distance.
The tragedy is that the two men who orchestrated Operation Mapotera Papi in 2008, which was targeting the people of Zimbabwe, punishing them for having rejected Zanu Pf. The two men who were spearheading that was Emerson Mnangagwa and Constantino Chiwenga. They are now occupying the highest offices in the land. How did we come to this? The fact that we should be seeing the same individuals doing the same thing to our people should not surprise us. These guys are thugs who honestly believe that they have the divine right to rule. And they're prepared to do anything. Rigging the elections, beating up people, and even killing them just to retain power. This is not the freedom and justice and human dignity that people were fighting for during the Liberation War. Even going back years to the generation of Buyaneanda and Sekru Kakovi, they were not fighting so that we could install in power a few ruling elite who can then ride roughshod over the people, becoming even more oppressive than the white colonizers before them. This is an outrage. This really should not be happening. Why we have found ourselves in this mess where now, 46 years after independence, we still have thugs ruling the country, beggars belief. It speaks volumes of our own failure as a nation. Because we cannot deny that in those 46 years, we had many opportunities to end the Zanu Pf dictatorship. And we failed to do so. I repeat, what has happened to Professor Lovemore Maduku and their supporters is an outrage. This should not be happening. We should not be seeing this happening to a fellow Zimbabwean. I don't agree with his political views, but I certainly condemn that he should be treated like this. Beaten up. For what? For daring to speak, to express his opinion on an issue of national importance. This is what Zanu Pf is all about. This is what Mnangagwa and Chiwenga are all about. And I think the people of Zimbabwe really have got to wake up and say, we have to put an end to this madness. This cannot carry on.
We have to be honest here, Wilbert. When Mugabe was ousted, during the coup itself, when it was actually happening, millions of people were out there in the streets celebrating Mnangagwa as though it was the second coming of Jesus. It was a day of great joy, celebration, and enthusiasm, such that even the very intellectuals were all saying, give him a chance, give him a chance, give him a chance. It was as if his slate and his history had been wiped clean, and he was the next best thing, or what they say these days, the best foot forward. But we could see there is a broadcast that we did, I think, during that time or on the day, to say, hold on, don't you remember this guy? Don't you know who he is, what he has done, and what he is capable of? Fast forward, we could say, okay, that was a mistake. It was our first time changing over power. Then Geza came. We want Chinu Chedwich. We want Chiwenga to go in, taking away that same right for you to choose who is the president of Zimbabwe. And millions out there were building small little cabinets and GNUs around Chiwenga. Yet this is the same guy that has spoken out about hitting people, that we will beat you. Zanu Pf will rule until the donkeys have horns. And many Zimbabweans were eager to say, no. Chiwenga is the best thing that can happen now after Mnangagwa. We can't lie. Let's not sit here and lie to the people of Zimbabwe and say, we have learned a lesson. We are going to do things any better. Just yesterday, we were prepared to do the worst. The biggest mistake again, by having Chiwenga as our president. A leopard does not change its spots. What Zimbabwe is facing, it has faced since 45 years, since independence. 46, if we are to include this year. Zimbabwe has never had free, fair, and credible elections. Zanu Pf has made sure that no meaningful elections are held. And they have an incompetent opposition that will make sure that we continue in the place and in the steps that we are at. That is what we are living in. And that is the truth. And that should be the message. Not a message of hope. There is no hope as long as we keep doing the same mistakes over and over again. There is no hope. Right now, we are busy dealing with the constitutional amendment number 3. Yes, it is important, but it is not the primary thing. It's not what started this. You have to address why we have this, constitutional amendment in the first place. It is Zanu Pf that is trying to wiggle out of giving people free, fair, and credible election. They have been warned. You cannot continue rigging elections. You cannot continue doing the same process that is illegal. That is the warning that they have been given. So what have they decided to do? They have decided, no, if we cannot then elect or rig for the president, we will have the majority of the people, of the MPs to do that election for us. This is what it is. So the main problem still remains. It is rigged elections, a flawed election process. That is what the fight should be about. And alas, many Zimbabweans out there think that reforms can be done at a later date. But now let's fight for this amendment. An amendment that is even further on than what is coming. The situation is just going to get worse. That is the truth.
I did mention that in 46 years of our independence, the nation had the opportunity to end the Zanu Pf dictatorship. That is a historic fact that we cannot deny. And it is a pity that some people are so narrow-minded. They don't want to face that reality. Did we or did we not have a chance to end the Zanu Pf dictatorship in 46 years? Even if those who would want to say, no, we did not, you say to yourself, well, in 46 years, you never tried to end the Zanu Pf dictatorship. What were you waiting for? The truth of the matter is we did have the chance. The 2008 to 2013 GNU was a golden opportunity to end the Zanu Pf dictatorship. It is disappointing that some people, even now, with the benefit of hindsight, they fail to accept that reality. We have said on this platform, and we'll say it again, that the MDC leaders had the golden opportunity to implement the reforms. They failed to implement even one token reform because Robert Mugabe bribed them with the trappings of high office, the E-Class Mercedes-Benz limos for all the deputy ministers, the two deputy prime ministers, and Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai himself. From the councillors right up to the prime minister, they all got very generous salaries and allowances. Morgan Tsvangirai got a US $4 million house, mansion. And for most of us, we thought that was the limit of the bribe. But information has started coming out showing that the opposition leaders got farms, cash from the bank, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, and other goodies. What did they pay back? They forgot about the reforms. They failed to implement even one token reform in 5 years of the GNU. Worse still, ever since the GNU debacle, they have participated in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the elections are flawed, and Zanu Pf was rigging those elections. And that participating will give Zanu Pf legitimacy. They've conned their followers to participate because they also knew that Zanu Pf was rewarding them for participating with the trappings of high office. That has been the tragedy of Zimbabwe. Here is Nelson Chamisa lying, one of the many lies that he has said. But on this occasion, he was taken to task for his lies.
Ende patakasangana na Trump akatibvunza naye akomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Serious questions were raised about your behaviour in Washington, D.C. You did see some senior people on Capitol Hill, some Congress people, but you also claimed that you'd seen Donald Trump. You claimed you had a conversation with him in which you said he asked you how much you needed to move the country forward. You told him $15 billion, and he said to you that he would provide the money if you won the election. That was not true, was it?
Sangana na Trump akatibvunza naye akomana.
It was not true that you'd seen Donald Trump and that Donald Trump indicated to you that he would provide, if you won the election, $15 billion.
All those statements were said by other people, not what I said.
Well, no, because there is a video which shows you at a rally in January back home in Zimbabwe saying that Donald Trump had pretty much promised you $15 billion. To be clear, because some people in Zimbabwe are still confused, you're now telling me you did not meet Donald Trump.
We did not.
That was in 2018. Come the elections in 2023, Chamisa was at it again. This time, he lied to his people, telling them that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. He even evoked the name of God. Hashtag God is in it. Of course, he didn't win the elections. And when he realized he didn't win the elections, he accepted it. What is so disappointing and heartbreaking, and indeed the reason why we are stuck in this mess, is that there are still millions of people there who not only believed that idiotic lie when he said it at the time, but even today, with the benefit of hindsight, they are refusing to accept that Chamisa lied to them. We are stuck with a corrupt, incompetent, and murderous Zanu Pf dictatorship. And we have not been able to end the dictatorship because the opposition that we elected for the specific task of implementing the democratic reforms to end the dictatorship have sold out. And we, the people of Zimbabwe, are not even smart enough to acknowledge that the MDC-CCC leaders are not up to task. This is the real tragedy of Zimbabwe.
must add to say that you will find out that millions of Zimbabwe out there will not only defend their leaders, be it Zanu Pf or the opposition, they will defend with insults and nothing to do with facts. I mean, you could play that video over and over and over again and ask people, what have you heard here? Is this not a lie? Instead of just giving you the simple answer to say, the guy lied, they will defend that position and make a saint out of that lie. It's as if they are grateful for him lying to them. The democracy that we wish for and that we seek, if we are honestly seeking it, one of the fundamental requirements of democracy is holding those in public office and those that aspire to hold public office to account. They should be accountable. In Zimbabwe, that is not the case. Once you get to a position of influence, you become untouchable. And it is the people out there that will create the shield, that will put their bodies on the line to defend their leaders. So in as much as we can go blaming Zanu Pf, yes, they are very much to blame. But we ourselves should take some of that blame, because we have created the worst enemy amongst us, which is refusing to accept that our leaders are flawed and our leaders are accountable to the people. You can't ask, or question what Chamisa is doing. You will have so much stick and people will fight you for asking, why did you lie? Why did you say you had everything covered when in actual fact you did not even pay your polling agents? You didn't have any polling agents in some places. So why did you lie? That question is very important from somebody that claimed that he would win big and assured us that even God himself was in it. The worst enemy is always from within and is always closest to you. And in Zimbabwe's case, the worst enemy is the people themselves. We are our own worst enemy and we have let ourselves down. Even if you go right into the very beginning of independence itself, an interviewer asked people, random people on the street, what if Mugabe fails? None would want to hear that question. You would never fail. I don't want to think about that. Guess what? Now he's failed. And you have to answer that question every single day you walk into a shop. You get up in the morning. And again now, the same question could be asked. What if Mnangagwa failed? What if Chamisa failed? What if
Chiwenga fail, because these are the candidates that we want. And their track record shows a failure. It's sad that, you know, we would want to sit and paint a better Zimbabwe. But we have to leave that delusion behind and face the facts. As long as we still have a people that are willing to lay their lives for their leaders, no matter how foolish and how corrupt they are, we are nowhere near the democracy that we so much need. We are nowhere near.
I think one other point that should be emphasized here to explain why we got ourselves into this mess is that an armed struggle, as much as it helps to end, in our case, to end colonial rule, does create problems of its own. Gandhi and his fellow Indian leaders, when they were fighting to end British rule of India, they had a discussion on that point. Should we take up arms and have an armed struggle? The leaders asked themselves two rhetorical questions. The first one was, what kind of leaders will an armed struggle throw up? And the second was that, would those be the kind of men and women we would want to rule independent India? Zimbabwe has had the misfortune of providing the answer to those two rhetorical questions. We had an armed struggle. Yes, the armed struggle threw up the worst kind of leader the nation ever dreamt possible. The kind of leaders who believe that they have the divine right to rule, who from the word go were prepared to deny their fellow Zimbabweans the same right that they claimed they'd been fighting for all along, a meaningful say in the governance of the country. In 1980, there was no free, fair, and credible election. That point must be made very clear. Zanu Pf made it very clear that if they don't win those elections, the Bush war would continue. Here is one of those individuals who fought in the Liberation War and clearly believes that he and his fellow Liberation War heroes have the divine right to rule the country. In this case, he was responding to a situation where the likes of Tendai Biti had mobilized war veterans to join in the fight to stop this constitutional amendment number 3. And Mnangagwa is underlying this very principle that legitimacy on the political scene in Zimbabwe if you do not have all liberation war credentials. You don't have any legitimacy at all.
They've always been suspect war veterans sometimes, but also those who may be prone to pecuniary persuasion. I mean, somebody may have just decided to bribe them or do anything in order to look like spoilers. It is in line with what I said earlier on. The gravitas of the war veterans for their noble task in liberating Zimbabwe is one which is craved for by those who never did anything and those who want to oppose the Zimbabwe revolution. The weight of the gravitas of the heroes of the National Liberation Movement is one which is placed premium on the market of political bargaining. So you want to do anything, you want to wear the hat of the war veterans or to be associated with the war veterans. Because on your own, you are empty, you have nothing to offer. So they go and poach and there are many war veterans who survived, who may still be alive. So you find one in the street, you persuade him to become a detractor, and look at the abuse of what they did to Gaza because he was sick. There may also be similar circumstances concerning other war veterans. It's interesting that they don't go to, they can't among themselves have people with gravity to carry out their assignments. So they always want to abuse war veterans. And it's said that there are some war veterans who fell into that trap of being abused.
The tragedy here is the belief that war veterans subscribe to the Zanu Pf ethos, that Zanu Pf have the divine right to rule the country. And any war veteran who says otherwise has been bribed, has sold out. And yet this was at the very heart of what the Liberation War was all about. And I think that point has not been made clearly all these years. We have failed to articulate the point that the right of every Zimbabwean to a meaningful say in the governance of the country is not negotiable. And those who abuse office for the purposes of perpetuating their own stay in power must not be allowed to get away with it. When Mnangagwa and Chiwenga carried out the Operation Mavotera Papi in 2008, they were blatantly attacking that very right. They were punishing people because they had dared reject Zanu Pf. And Mnangagwa and Chiwenga got away with it. And we, the people, allowed them to get away with it. And now we have got people like Chris Mutsangwa, who firmly believe that any war veterans who contradict Zanu Pf's idea that it has the divine right to stay in power at all costs can only be doing it because they had been bribed. Like I said, we have given the world the answer to the rhetorical question: what kind of leaders would an armed struggle throw up? And we are now stuck with it. And for 46 years and counting, we have been stuck with thugs who believe they have the divine right to rule. And they can beat up all those who dare challenge that right. This is where we are as a nation.
At one point, Chris Msangwa and many other war veterans were out on the street. They had fallen out with Mugabe. It is funny how he can label others and say that, you know, they were bribed. Can we say he was bribed when he was out in the streets? You know, the problem we have is Zanu Pf has created an idea that since independence, they have the divine right because of war credentials. If you want to be the top dog or the top roost, you have to have fought the war. There are millions of people out there that were affected by that war. Some lost loved ones, some lost livelihoods, some lost, you know, economic substance. Everybody sacrificed. I mean, during a war does not choose who or where. Everybody gets affected. So everybody in their own right, whether they were Chimbwido or Mujiba, they played a role. And they must take that credit. But if somebody does not believe in your ideology or in your party, that does not mean they are less than you. And this is what Msangwa is trying to create, to say, because we as Zanu Pf, we have war credentials, we have the divine, we are untouchable. It makes me sick that one person can think that they could have actually liberated, or one party could have liberated. There was Zipra, there were some people that fought that did not even have any political affiliation, but just the love for their country, the love for the freedom. And you cannot then go and take that away from them and make everything all about you. Unfortunately, we have let this happen for a very long time. And Zanu Pf actually now believe that they have that divine right. They are now the kings and queens of Zimbabwe. But it's not too late. And it's never too late. But we need to start acting the part now. We have had so many elections, and these elections have been marked illegal. They do not even meet the constitutional requirements. The same constitution that we are fighting for right now was violated for many, many, many decades. And it is very, very unwise and foolish that some people would believe that this violation is more than the violation that has been happening all along. And yet, that same violation of elections has given birth to this amendment.
And we have been told on numerous occasions, fix this, and then everything will fall into place. And Kwame Nkrumah also said, fix your political environment, and everything else will fall into place. We have ignored that. We know best. And guess what? Our knowing best has landed us deeper and deeper into the mud. We have been rolling in the mud and going so much in the mud. We are stuck. The only way to fix Zimbabwe's problems, the way has been provided, the answers have been provided. SADC, AU, and all other international observers gave us recommendations. Those are good enough reforms as they are. Table those. Work on those. And we will see support and change at the same time.
I'd like to conclude with the WhatsApp message I got from one of the people in my group. And in it, he was asking a number of questions. This is relating to this constitutional amendment number 3. He was asking, are we fighting the amendment bill number 3? Are we fighting 2030 agenda? Are we fighting for electoral reforms? Are we fighting for political reforms? Are we fighting to remove Zanu Pf? My answer to the individual was simple enough. You could have asked 20 or even 100 other questions. They would all be relevant as far as Zanu Pf is concerned. Because Zanu Pf wants all those questions to be relevant for the purposes of creating confusion, panic, and a sense of helplessness. You've got to understand that Zanu Pf is a party of thugs. Mnangagwa is a crocodile. He hunts by mudding the waters. When the waters are clear, the fish can see the crocodile coming, and they'll keep their distance. And so the crocodile will chain up the mud, make the water muddy, so that the fish can hardly see in that muddy water. And chaining up the water makes them panic, particularly if it's in a confined pool. All the crocodile has got to do is sit still or swim very slowly with his mouth wide open. Any fish, because they cannot see, that blunders into those open jaws will never get out, because those jaws will snap shut so quickly that even a housefly that is renowned for its superlative reflex will not get out. This is what Zanu Pf is doing. I believe this whole issue of attacking Professor Maduku and his followers is part of those 100, 200 questions. Zanu Pf wants to create the panic and confusion in the electorate. The regime rigged the 2023 elections. There is no question about that. Even SADC and the AU election observers condemned the 2023 elections as flawed and illegal. And it was within a few weeks of Mnangagwa taking his oath of office, starting to serve his 5-year term, that he started talking of ED 2030 agenda. The nation was told Mnangagwa is doing so well to promote Vision 2030, where the country's economy will improve so much so that the nation will become an upper middle income nation. At the present moment, the nation is one of the poor ones. Our GDP per capita is $2,000 per annum. And if we become upper middle income nation, it will rise to 3 times that, $6,000 per annum. The real truth is, of course, that in 1980, we were an upper middle income nation. And 46 years of gross mismanagement, rampant corruption, and tyrannical rule has reduced us to what we are today, a failed state. Now Mnangagwa is telling us that in 4 years, we could get back to what we were in 1980. Ironically, he has failed to give any sign, any hope that things are going to improve. He has been in power now for 6 years. In 2017, he and his colleagues staged a coup, claiming that they were going to end corruption and they were going to hold free, fair, and credible elections. 8 months later, he rigged the 2018 elections, blatantly rigged the 2018 elections. And as for corruption, it has got worse under him than it was under Mugabe. So Vision 2030 is an illusion. This is just one of those ideas thrown in just to create confusion and chaos. The attack on Professor Maduku and his followers is all part and parcel of that plan. Create the impression that Amendment number 3 is of critical importance. The regime will not allow anyone to challenge it. In reality, is just another excuse for creating the confusion and the chaos. Because if the truth be told, we don't need amendment number 3 to stop Zanu Pf rigging the elections. Zanu Pf has been rigging elections all along. Why have we not been fighting them? We have not been fighting them because, well, like I said at the beginning, we have let ourselves down. That is the truth. But back to where we started. So to this WhatsApp group member, I reiterate what I've been saying all along. Zanu Pf wants you to focus on amendment number 3 because it is a useful distraction. It is part of the regime's muddying the waters. Because it doesn't want the nation to pay attention to the real important issue of ending the Zanu Pf dictatorship, of stopping Zanu Pf rigging the elections and getting away with it. If we completely ignore this amendment number 3, if we completely ignore the abuse by the regime of victims like Professor Matuku there, and just focus on the issue of free, fair, and credible elections, Zanu Pf's regime will end. At the present moment, there is no chance of getting the regime to implement the democratic reforms. Zanu Pf will never reform itself out of office. But what can we do then? What we can do is stop participating in flawed elections to give the regime legitimacy. It's not rocket science. Opposition leaders, SADC, the AU, everyone who has expressed an opinion in Zimbabwean election will tell you that if you participate in a flawed process, you give the regime legitimacy. After 46 years and counting of rigged elections, to find that you are the one who is giving the regime legitimacy by foolishly participating in flawed elections is unforgivable. In 2023, 2 million Zimbabweans participated in those flawed elections because they believed Chamisa's idiotic lie that he had plugged the vote-rigging loopholes. And even today, many of them still refuse to accept that Chamisa lied to them. How idiotic is that? Think about it. Thank you very much. Those of you who were able to join us tonight, I hope you'll be able to do it again during the week, 6 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time.